My name is John Matthews. I'm 34 years old, and I think I'm losing my mind. I work night security for an old industrial warehouse just off exit 17, outside a small town in Illinois. It's not the kind of job people dream of, but it pays the bills. The warehouse used to belong to a logistics company, but these days it's mostly empty. A few crates, some leftover forklifts, and silence. When I got the job, they said it was easy. Just stay awake. Watch the cameras. Log any visitors. I've been doing it for 6 months. But 3 nights ago, something changed. It started like any other night. 10 p.m., coffee in hand, rain tapping lightly on the booth window. I was reviewing camera feeds when I heard something strange. A dragging sound. It was faint, but unmistakable, like something heavy being pulled across the concrete floor. I paused, muted the radio, listened. Nothing. I stepped out of the booth with my flashlight. The yard was empty. Puddles reflected the security lights. And then I noticed something. One of the side doors to the warehouse was open. That door is always locked. Always. I walked over slowly. My boots echoed on the wet ground. The flashlight flickered once, then stabilized. Anyone in there? I called out. No answer. Just the creak of the metal door swinging in the wind. I stepped inside. The place was massive. Rows of shelves, scattered crates, broken tools. Cold and dark. The dragging sound had stopped. I took a few steps in, then heard a soft tap, tap, tap from behind a stack of boxes. Hello, I said again. Silence. Then a whisper. I couldn't make out the words. It sounded like breathing. I backed out quickly and shut the door. Locked it. Told myself it was rats. Or maybe a stray. But I knew that wasn't true. Back in the booth, I checked the cameras. And froze. Camera 3. Inside the warehouse. There was someone standing in the middle of the room. Not walking. Just standing. Staring. He was tall. Thin. Wearing what looked like a raincoat. But his face was wrong. Blurry. Like the lens couldn't focus on it. The timestamp said 2:43 a.m. Then the feed glitched. Lines of static. When it came back, the man was gone. Just gone. I replayed the footage, but nothing showed up before or after. That camera has been cleaned for months. I didn't sleep when I got home. The next night, I showed up, hoping it was just a weird dream. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. At exactly 2:43 a.m., it happened again. That dragging sound. Only this time, it was closer, louder, coming from just outside the booth. I turned on the floodlights. Nothing. But when I checked the CCTV, camera 3 showed something different. A figure crawling on the floor, slowly, dragging its body forward like its legs didn't work. The same raincoat, the same distorted face. I stared at the screen, too afraid to move. Then the audio feed kicked in. A voice whispered, "John, help me." I turned off the monitor, locked the booth, clutched my flashlight like it could save me. Then I remembered something. There used to be a night guard here before me. Old guy named Frank. He quit last year. No one ever said why. I still had his number from the employee log. So I called him. It was almost 3 a.m. He picked up after 3 rings. "Frank, it's John. I took over your post at the Exit 17 warehouse." Silence. Then he said something I'll never forget. "You saw him, didn't you?" I paused. The man in the coat. The dragging. The time on the clock. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. 2:43 a.m. I whispered. Frank exhaled. You need to get out of there. Don't stay a third night. I asked why. He said, because that's when he follows you home. I didn't go in the next night. Called in sick. Turned off my phone. Locked my doors. But that night, at exactly 2:43 a.m., my doorbell rang. Once. Then again. Then nothing. I looked through the peephole. There was no one there. But on my porch was a wet footprint. Just one. And drag marks leading back down the steps. I'm not going back. Not to the warehouse. Not at night. Maybe not ever. But if you ever drive near exit 17 and you hear something dragging across the ground, don't stop. And whatever you do,
don't check the time.
My name is Emily Rains. I'm a registered nurse. Night shift. I work at St. Alora's Hospital in the city. I've seen all kinds of things, trauma cases, overdose victims, violent psych patients. But this isn't like anything I was trained for. 2 weeks ago, I was assigned to floor 7 for a night rotation. Floor 7 is rarely used. Mostly long-term or hospice patients. It's quiet, cold, and honestly, kind of depressing. The kind of place they put patients when there's not much time left. That night, we were short-staffed. It was just me and one orderly, Marcus. 3 patients on the entire floor. All asleep. At least they were. Until around 2:30 a.m. I was at the nurse's station updating charts when the hallway lights flickered. Then I heard something. Ding. The elevator. Now, that elevator is always locked after 10 p.m. Only authorized keycards can access it. But the doors opened, and no one came out. Just a cold breeze. I walked to the elevator slowly, confused. Inside, the floor button for 7 was lit, but there was no one there. I leaned in, said hello. Nothing. Then the doors closed on their own. I went back to the station. Told myself it was a glitch. 10 minutes later, I heard soft footsteps. But when I looked up, the hallway was empty. And then, one of the call lights blinked. Room 707. Patient, Harold Price. Male, 79 years old. Stroke survivor. No mobility. The man couldn't even lift his hand. But the call button was flashing. I went in. He was awake, eyes wide, staring at the corner of the room. He was whispering, over and over.
She's in the wall. She's in the wall. She's in the wall.
I asked him who he meant. He didn't respond. He just kept pointing at the air vent near the ceiling. Then, without blinking, he said, "She's back." I checked his vitals. All normal. He didn't have a fever. No signs of delusion. But he wouldn't stop staring at that vent. Eventually, I sedated him. Just a mild dose. As I turned off the light and stepped out, I heard something. From inside the vent. A scratch. Like nails on metal. Very faint. I stood there, frozen, then it stopped. I asked Marcus if he'd ever heard anything strange up here. He paused for a second too long, then said, "Yeah, but I try not to think about it." I pressed him. He told me a story. Back in 2016, a psychiatric patient was temporarily moved to floor 7 during renovations. A teenage girl named Ava Wells. Severe trauma. Self-harm. Nonverbal. One night, she vanished. Security footage showed her entering room 707 around 2:40 a.m., but never leaving. The nurses searched everywhere. They even opened the ceiling tiles. Eventually, they found her, or part of her. She'd crawled into the vent shaft and somehow got stuck. No one could explain how she even got up there. They said she was trying to escape the noise. After that night, room 707 was considered unlucky. Staff reported call lights going off on their own, scratching sounds, whispers. One nurse quit after seeing someone crawl across the ceiling in the mirror. But eventually, the stories faded. People forgot. Until tonight, around 3:15 a.m., I went back to check on Mr. Price. The room was ice cold. I reached to adjust the thermostat when I heard it again, the scratching, but it was louder, right above me. Then something fell from the ceiling vent. Not big, just a small scrap of cloth. I picked it up. It was old, torn flannel, stained with something dark. Then I heard a laugh from inside the wall, soft, childlike. I ran out of the room. I told Marcus. He said, "That's it. I'm done. I'm calling in backup." We checked the vent system. There was no way a person could fit. The duct was barely 10 inches wide. Even a child couldn't crawl through it. But the sound continued, moving from room to room, scratching, tapping, breathing. I swear I heard it whisper my name. Emily. Around 4 a.m., all 3 patients started screaming. All at once. Different rooms. No reason. No monitors going off. No signs of pain. Just pure terror. They said things like, "She's behind the curtain. She won't stop watching. She said we're next." We gave them mild sedatives. But even under, they twitched in their sleep. Eyes fluttering. Mouths moving. Repeating the same phrase. 7. 7. She's in the walls. I filed an incident report that morning. The hospital buried it. They always do. Marcus put in for a transfer the next day. And me? I got reassigned to the ER. But sometimes, when I walk past the elevator, I swear I hear a ding. At exactly 2:43 a.m. And once, just once, I saw the elevator doors open. And for a split second, I saw a pale girl in a hospital gown, crawling backwards into the wall. My name is Luke Carter. I used to work the night shift at a gas station off Exit 92 in rural Pennsylvania. Middle of nowhere. One pump, one register, and way too many hours of silence. It was a boring job, until it wasn't. What happened one night changed everything I thought I knew about this place. It started with the regulars. Same old faces every night. Truckers, smokers, a few high schoolers sneaking beer. Then, one Thursday night, a man walked in I'd never seen before. Tall, pale, wearing an old green hoodie with the hood up. He didn't say a word, just walked to the back of the store. I watched him on the security monitor. He was standing in front of the fridge, not moving, just staring. I waited. 5 minutes passed, still staring. I cleared my throat and said, "Need help with something?" No reply. He finally grabbed a water bottle and came up to the counter. His hands were shaking. When I rang him up, I glanced at his face. His eyes looked empty. He handed me a 20. I gave him change. Then he leaned in real close and said, "You shouldn't be here tonight." I blinked. "What do you mean?" But he was already walking out the door. Didn't even take his water. Just vanished into the fog. I shrugged it off and sat back down. 2:12 a.m. The graveyard hour. That time when everything feels wrong. I was scrolling my phone when the power flickered. All the lights in the station went out for exactly 3 seconds, then came back on. The pumps rebooted, cameras glitched, and the store was dead silent. Except for one thing. The bathroom door at the back. It was slowly creaking open, but no one had gone in there. Not in hours. I grabbed the flashlight and walked back. "Hello," I called out. No answer. The bathroom was empty, but the mirror had a handprint on it. Small, smudged, like someone had pressed it there from inside the glass. I wiped it off and locked the door. Tried to ignore the chills crawling up my back. Back at the counter, I checked the monitors. That's when I saw it. Camera 2, facing the parking lot. There was someone standing at pump 3. Not moving, just standing there, facing the store. The camera feed was fuzzy, but I could see the outline. It looked like the man from earlier. Same hoodie, same stance. I looked up from the screen to the real parking lot. Nothing. I looked back down. Still on the monitor, but not in real life. I stared at the screen, and then he waved. I jumped up and ran to the window. Still no one outside. I walked out. Fog everywhere. No footsteps. No sound. Just a dead stillness. I turned back toward the store and saw the bathroom light was on again. I ran inside. "Who's in here?" I shouted. No answer. The door was wide open. Light flickering. And that same handprint. Back on the mirror. Only now, there were 2. And lower down, like a child had left them. I called my boss. No answer. Tried the police station. Line was dead. I decided to lock the store for the rest of the night. But before I could, all the coolers in the back switched on. All at once. The hum of compressors. The lights inside flickered violently. And the doors, one by one, started opening. Clack, clack, clack. Every single door. Even the locked ones. Then, the overhead speaker, the one we use for music, crackled to life. But no music played. Just static. And under the static, I heard it. A voice. A child's voice. "Luke, let me in." I ripped the speaker wire out of the wall. Silence. At that point, I was done. I grabbed my coat and keys and ran to my car. Started it up. Put it in reverse. Then looked at the store one last time. The front door was open. Wide open. And standing just inside was a small girl. So pale, she looked almost gray. No shoes. Black eyes. And a grin that didn't move. Didn't change. Didn't blink. I drove. Didn't stop until I saw the lights of the next town. I called my boss the next morning and quit. No notice. No explanation. Just gone. A week later, a friend sent me a news article. Unidentified man found dead behind gas station at exit 92. The photo? Same hoodie. Same man who told me I shouldn't be there. They said he'd been missing for years. No ID. No known relatives. The article mentioned he'd worked there. Graveyard shift. Right before me. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I stayed. If I'd followed the girl. If I'd listened to the voices. But I didn't. And I'm not going back. Ever. You shouldn't either. Not to exit 92.
Not at night.
My name is Tom Redding. I used to be a janitor at Westbrook High School. Worked there for 11 years. Mostly night shifts. It was quiet. Peaceful. Until my final week. That's when everything changed. Westbrook was built in the 1960s. A lot of concrete. No cameras in the back hallways. Cheap lights that buzzed all night. My shift ran from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. I'd mop the halls, clean bathrooms, check the boiler room. Alone. Always alone. No students. No teachers. Just me in the dark. One night, around 1:30 a.m., I was in the science wing. I'd just finished mopping when I heard something. A locker door slamming shut. I froze. There weren't supposed to be any kids in the building. The alarm would have gone off. I walked down the hallway. The lights flickered overhead. Everything looked normal. Until I turned the corner. Locker 118 was wide open. But no one was there. I pushed it shut. Started walking away. Then I heard it open again. Squeak. Clang. I turned back. Same locker. Still open. This time, there was something inside. A single sheet of lined paper. Crumpled. Damp. I pulled it out. No words. Just a crude drawing. A stick figure hanging from the ceiling. I dropped it. Not funny. I assumed some kid snuck in before lockup. Later that night, I passed the girls' bathroom on the second floor. The light was on. It's always off after cleaning. I stepped in, and I swear I saw someone move behind the last stall. I said, "This area is closed." "Who's there?" No answer. I knocked on the stall door. Still nothing. So I opened it, and there was no one. But the mirror above the sinks? It had words written in the fog. She never left. I didn't clean the rest of the wing. Just left it. Went downstairs to the main office and tried to stay busy. At 3:12 a.m., the fire alarm suddenly triggered. I grabbed my keys and ran toward the boiler room. It wasn't smoke. It was steam. Thick. Wet. Filling the hallway. The boiler door was open. And there, sitting in front of it, was a girl. Long black hair. School uniform. Face buried in her knees. I shouted, "Are you okay?" She didn't move. I stepped closer, and just as I reached out, she vanished. Like smoke. Gone. I checked the cameras the next day. Nothing showed up. Not the girl. Not the steam. Not even the open locker. It was like the night didn't exist. I asked the assistant principal if anyone had ever died here. She looked uncomfortable, then finally said, "We don't talk about the 1998 case." I pressed her. She sighed. Said, "A student named Claire Jennings, Jr. She hanged herself in the locker hallway. Said it happened during the winter break. Nobody found her for 2 days. She was in the same hallway I'd been mopping. The same locker I saw open, locker 118. After that, things got worse. Every night, more strange events. Classroom chairs arranged in circles. Music playing faintly from old intercoms. Bathroom stalls slamming shut. Footsteps behind me in empty halls. One night, I found "Help Her" carved into the wood of my mop handle. Another night, I walked past the art room and saw all the paintings. Had been turned upside down. Every single one. The final night I worked there, I decided to bring a cross. Just a small one. Kept it in my shirt pocket. I wasn't even religious. I just felt like I needed it. Around 2:45 a.m., the power cut out. Completely dark. Only my flashlight. And the sound of soft sobbing. Echoing down the halls. I followed the sound to the auditorium. The heavy curtains were open. The stage lights were flickering on and off. And in the center of the stage was Claire. Same school uniform. Same pale skin. This time, she looked right at me. And smiled. I turned and ran. But the hallway stretched. It felt endless. Every door I passed was locked. I could hear lockers slamming open behind me. Faster and faster. Like something was chasing me. Finally, I reached the front entrance. Tried the key. It broke off in the lock. When I turned around, she was standing inside the glass office across the hall. Just staring. Not blinking. Then she lifted one hand and pointed at me, and all the lights exploded. I woke up in the nurse's office. No idea how I got there. It was morning, the day custodian found me passed out. I didn't say a word, just walked out, left my badge on the desk, never went back. They called me for weeks, asked if I was coming in. I blocked the number. Then one day I passed by the school on my way to the hardware store. I stopped at a red light, glanced up, and in the second floor window above the entrance, I saw her, Claire, waving. They say ghosts don't haunt schools, but I'm telling you, some halls never forget, and some students never graduate.